Easy now.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you out like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they feel the change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you
Welcome to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael-Shawn Dugard. You can follow me on the tweet machine. You guys know where to follow me at. Well, dang, Chris, should I even call it the tweet machine anymore? Is it the X machine? I didn't forgot about that. Shoot, we didn't even talk about that before we press record. But follow me on there, X, Twitter, whatever Elon is calling it these days, at Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. Appreciate you guys who subscribe on Spotify, Apple, The Athletic, wherever you get your podcast. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone else who's watching us on YouTube. Seahawks Man to Man is the name of the channel. That's Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. We appreciate all the love support on there. Chris, go ahead. Holla at him.
What is good, everybody? It has been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope pod to step to, but we're back. We're back. And yes, Elon Musk is ruining Twitter, now called X.
X, yeah.
Your boy done move on. I'm on Spill now. If you want to follow me on
you?
Spill. Yeah, man, I'm on Spill, CKid206. I'm on there. It's pretty cool. It's not messed up as Twitter is right now, but you can follow me on Twitter as well at CKIDD206. I don't think I'll ever delete it, but boy, we're slowly getting there. I don't know what, man. You get billions of dollars. Like, you know what? I just want to change this app.
Yeah. When I was on, I've been on like vacation for the most part, better part of July. I had a birthday. Chris also had a birthday. I was kind of off the grid a little
31
bit.
gang.
Yeah, both turned 31. Yeah, so I was like kind of following what was going on with like Spill and then like Thread or whatever the other one was called. I'm like, look here. I'm pretty loyal to whatever Elon calls this shit. Whatever he calls it, I'm pretty loyal to it. So I'm staying right here. I don't have the capacity, I don't think, to download any other applications. I don't think. So if Elon kills it, and that's just it.
I'm dying.
I'm
dying with it.
Follow me on Instagram or something, but like I've hit my quota on social media apps. That's how I know I'm old. I can't keep downloading all this new stuff. I don't even have a TikTok. So, or I do only so I can look at when players post stuff or something like that. Like Quandre was teasing, posting the jerseys on TikTok or something like that. We'll get to the uniforms at the end of the show. But like Chris said, it's been a minute. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Training camp is starting. As by the time you're hearing this, training camp is probably already started or is about to start. Glad that it's back ahead of training camp. I asked you guys on Twitter for some listener questions. You guys delivered as usual. The Seahawks don't have a ton of like super hot storylines like they did last year with like the new rookie class, not having Russ, not having Bobby, the quarterback competition. There's still some newness, but not nearly as intriguing on the surface outside of maybe some of the draft class guys. But you guys still found a way to give us some stuff to talk about. We appreciate you. It's always tough to give you something substantive in July. So, again, we appreciate you for that. Chris, you ready?
Man, we got quite a few Twitter questions. Let's waste no time. Let's jump right into it. Our first one is from Zach Nixon. I feel like the wide receiver core is the only position group other than center on offense that has questions. Out of the two, who do you think makes the 53-man roster spot in the wide receiver group? Your boy Jake Bobo, Mike, or Matt Landers?
Oh, my boy Jake Bobo. He can be in the my boy class.
Oh, I know.
Only because I just never not be fascinated by seeing his relative athletic score before I watched the tape of him and just being like, yo, there's no – like I was expecting to hear that he slipped and fell or something like that during his 40 time. To run 4.99, I was like, good God. So, yeah, he could be my boy.
For reference, Mike also ran a 4.9. So there it is, guys.
Yeah, but see, the day I ran a 4.9, it was hand timed. I think hand timed by you, I believe.
0.4. It's 0.14 added. So technically, if you want to be all, yeah, you ran like a 5.014. So whatever.
Yeah, fine. So it was hand timed by you, but that was after we played flag football for like what 2 hours that day, maybe an hour and a half.
In the hot sun.
Yeah, it was the summertime too. So it's like then I just took my stuff off and was like, Chris, time me real fast. And still was around the range of Bobo, which is not good. It's not good at all. So when I saw his relative athletic score, I was like, that's insane. And the other one was Matt Landers, I believe.
Yes.
The question has. Yeah, I'm going with Bobo, not because he's my boy, just because he was another guy who kind of jumped out at camp. And when I went back, and I might have mentioned this on the show before, when I went back and watched, and I went back and watched, just went and watched Zach Charbonnet, his tape. Naturally, they're on tape together because they both play for UCLA. Bobo did jump out. That's been some of the fun part of watching college tape is you do kind of see, oh, who's this guy? Who's that guy? Even if I'm watching Illinois for Devin Witherspoon, but maybe someone on the other team jumps out. That happened quite a bit, especially when I watched anyone who played in the Big 12, that played Texas. Bijan jumps out right away. Like he makes a jump cut and you're like, damn, who's number 5 or whatever his number was. It was like, damn, who's that? He was definitely one of those guys. So, yeah, I think that Bobo is about as fast as his 40 times suggests, which is crazy, but he's so big, and somehow he has some wiggle to him, and he gets open. It's going to be really tough, I think, to make the 53 at receiver. It kind of always is. Because right now, Chris, let's say they keep like 5 guys, maybe. Let's assume,
name them.
for the sake of this discussion, that they're keeping D. That just makes the debate a little easier. So let's say they keep D. They keep Derek. I guess we have to make an assumption there too. When you're a 7th round pick, nothing's really guaranteed. But let's assume they keep Derek. Let's assume they keep D. You got Jackson, DK, Tyler. That's 5 right there.
Yep.
You know, so it's tough for an undrafted guy to crack that. I imagine that they can maybe surpass Derek in that regard, depending on body type. Jake would be in direct competition with him in that regard. But of those two, of Jake and Matt. When I was watching OTA's minicamp, Jake was look at number. Dang, I don't know. I have Jake's number in front of me, but everything I write down is by numbers, you know, for the most part, unless you're like a veteran. So I'm usually like, oh yeah, number 9 is doing his thing, or number whoever the hell is doing his thing. That's how Chris Carson jumped out to me. I kept being like, yo, 32 is legit. I was like, I know they just drafted 20. That was Rashad's year. Like, but this 32, he might be better than this guy. And then he turned out to be. I guess that's maybe debatable, but he was at the time. So yeah, I'm going with my guy Bobo. He joins your boy club. We'll make sure we're gonna get an undrafted free agent, Chris, in your club too. I think you might like. Let's see, with one of those safeties, you might end up being your boy. Either Ty, I think it's Akata. I think he's from like Montana. I want to say that might end up being your boy, or the other one that might be your boy
Jared
from
Reed?
the class. No, I'm thinking of an undrafted guy, but yeah, Jared
Was
Reed.
undrafted, or was he 7th round?
No, he's 6th round.
6th round. Okay, that's right.
New Mexico. I want to say the other UCLA guy. I think you might like Mo Osling III. I didn't watch UCLA's defensive tape because I only had their offensive tape when I watched Zach. But when I did go watch a little bit of Mo, I was like, okay, there's something here. I think he's an older guy too. Yeah, he's already 24. But yeah, that might end up being your boy. We'll keep a note on that for preseason. Either him or the guy from Montana, Akata. Hopefully I'm not saying his name wrong.
Shoot, it's been so long we did a pod. I forgot that Jarek Hall was drafted and not an undrafted free agent.
Oh, Jarek Reed, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Shame on me.
They call him Jay Reed as well. I don't know how that's not confusing in the building.
That's a problem.
Because it's like I can understand Ken Walker, Kenny McIntosh. Like I heard Ken Walker the other day call him K-Mac. So I was like, okay, maybe that's how they're distinguishing. One's Ken, one's K-Mac, or one's K9, one's K-Mac. You can work around that. Jay Reed and Jay Reed, there is no distinguishing nothing there. It's just Jay Reed and Jay Reed. I don't know. We'll figure that. I need to figure how they're distinguishing between the two, because that would confuse the hell out of me. It's like, yo, Jay Reed. Huh? They both look. It's like, huh? Yeah, they gotta figure that out.
It's almost like Chris Whitehead and myself when I'm at training camp. Chris, huh? Oh, you talking to Whitehead?
Oh, yeah, both Chris's, yeah. Multiple Chris's. Yeah, that's very confusing. Remind me to figure out how they're distinguishing between the two Jay Reeds in the building.
I'll keep that in mind. Next up, this comes from Ryan Turner. This one, what is your guys' take on the attempted unionization of running backs across the league?
Ooh, this is a fun one. While I was on vacation a little bit, that was the kind of the hot topic, is like, what's going on with the running backs with Saquon? And I was kind of only half paying attention because the deadline for the franchise tag was my birthday. So I was like, I didn't really care what was going on with Saquon. I was like, it's my birthday. So that was kind of interesting. That said, I've thought about this for a while. I'm pretty sure we've talked about this on the podcast too, that running backs should probably have their own union, their own little side thing, because they just get screwed. They're one of the only position groups. You could maybe argue this with receivers as well, though not as much because of how technical their job is. But when Roger Goodell says a running back's name on draft day, he is in his prime right there. Boom. The minute they said, oh, the second pick, Zach Charbonnet, whoever announced that pick, boom, Charbonnet's in his prime right then. Because after he gets 1,000 carries over the next 4 years, it's going to be like, well, he's worn down. Let's go get the next guy. And I think only receivers and probably running backs are probably in that space. Everyone else, if they're like 28 years old, you're like, ooh, he's still in his prime, tackles, quarterbacks, even guards and centers, for the most part. Linebacker, maybe not as much, especially the inside guys, but edge, even some nose guys. So my thing is, and the running back debate has got pretty bad because you got a lot of people opining who don't really know what they're talking about. That's what happens with something because of trending topic. What I think, Chris, and you see if I'm wording this right. I think that running backs are not, and let's see if I can get this right. Okay. Running the ball has not been devalued. Every coach in the NFL, every head coach, either the good ones and the bad ones, will tell you that running the ball matters. They all, in their playbooks, have run games. They have run game concepts. They hire an O-line coach, a run game coordinator. All that stuff is to make sure you run the ball often, and when you do it well. Every coach would tell you that. Every GM will tell you that. Like, it still matters at a very high level. Who does the running has probably never mattered less. And therein lies the issue. Running the ball matters. Who does the running? Probably not as much. Now, there are some guys who are obviously better at it than others, but to the extent when you talk about costs, it's like, is Derrick Henry $14 million better or whatever he makes than Jahmyr Gibbs right now? Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs not the best example. Is he $14 million better than Zach Charbonnet even? Probably not. He's even $12 million better. If the O-line stays the same, probably not. And even if he is, teams are willing to take that gamble and by not giving that guy that second contract. And I do think there really is no good way to fix that. A couple of the solutions that I have seen, and I'm curious, Chris, if you've seen some as well, that I've liked are rewarding any position, not just running backs, because you can't really just isolate and make new rules for running backs. It's going to be tough. The other positions are going to chime in, and they're going to it's going to be a slippery slope. Like, I think the NFLPA head is a center, JC Treader. Like, if you try to make exceptions for running backs where they can make more money or hit free agency earlier, I can easily see JC being like, okay, timeout, cool. What about centers? What about guards? Then you can see the owners being like, okay, all y'all can shut up. How about nobody gets nothing? We keep the CBA how it is till 2030, right? So I think what you can potentially do, I don't know if this has to be collectively bargained in 2030, or you can do it sooner, is to make some type of provision where if you make Pro Bowl or All Pro within the first 2 years of your contract, you are contract extension eligible ahead of year 3. Because right now, as it stands, you're a contract eligible ahead of year 4, no matter what you do, whether you stink or whether you're great. What I think they could do is like, if you're Saquon Barkley and in year 1 you make the Pro Bowl and in year 2 you win the rushing title and you're All Pro, you can go to the Giants and be like, hey, let's negotiate. Doesn't mean they have to give you a new deal, but you're just eligible. I could see that maybe being beneficial to the top guys. Obviously, if you're Pro Bowl or All Pro, you're the top guy. I don't think that it's realistic to think that they're going to get like a new union or be allowed to hit free agency sooner just because they're running backs. No, that's not going to be the case. Because the thing is, when you say that they're underpaid, and I think Bill Barnwell, ESPN, made a good point about this, is with running backs, if you say they're underpaid, that means to pay them more, you have to take money from somewhere else. It's a finite amount of resources. Like, Chris, how people make top 10 lists. Yep. It's like everybody argues, man, how do you not have such and such in there? It's like, well, I only got 10 spots. So who you want in here? So I got to take out. It's the same thing with like, if I pay such and such more, I have to pay another position less. So, I mean, and you're not going to squeeze out more money from punters and kickers. They already ain't making nothing, right? Like long snappers, you can't just take more money from them. to give to running backs. You're going to take it from another position that is, quote unquote, probably more valuable than running backs, and then just create another problem. Next thing you know, 5 years from now, inside linebackers are like, what the hell? We're all underpaid, or centers or guards or D tackles, whatever it is. You're just creating another issue to a position group that's going to also feel valuable. So I don't think any of the solutions of like letting them hit free agency earlier or them unionizing, none of that stuff is going to happen. I think the only realistic thing you can probably do is make a rule for everybody that also benefits the running backs. Because Chris, as we've seen, when these guys, since Le'Veon Bell hit the market in 2019, whatever that was, running backs have not gotten paid by a new team. Some guys have gotten signed by their previous team, like Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, Kamara, Mixon, Dalvin, Zeke. They all got paid by their current team. Boy, when these guys hit the market, they can't get a damn thing. And it's actually starting to feel bad for these guys, you know?
Yeah, it's tough. I did like what Dominique Foxworthy said about the performance-based pool that supplements running backs.
Right.
That pool continues to grow, and obviously owners have to agree to it, and of course other players in the league would have to take some insight. But I like that idea of, okay, you've played X amount of games, this money is available to you. So not only are you getting paid, you're also getting a bonus per se on top of the money you're going to get. And obviously in this scenario, a team's not going to sign you, but you're still going to get a lump sum of cash because you achieved of playing 16 games in a season or 13. You know, I think players should benefit from that because they play a game where you get into a car accident every play. There should be some form of benefit for what you're doing to yourself. Yes, it's a kid's game. It's fun, but it takes a toll on people that are playing it as an adult. They're doing things faster. They're stronger. You name it. There has to be some sort of compensation for that, I think. That's the way I look at it.
I like Dominique's thing as well. And to be clear, Dominique's referring to the player, like the player performance bonus thingy.
Cool, yep. So I'll tell you exactly. Let me pull it up again.
Oh, you got it? There we go.
Yeah, so it's the performance-based pool to supplement the running backs. That pool is at $336 million. In 2019, it was $230 million, and it's continuing to grow. He says, I think that they should see aside a portion of it for running backs, or at least there should be some benchmarks that you have to reach over the course of a couple of years or maybe 3 years. And if you meet those performance benchmarks and these playtime benchmarks, you unlock the performance base pay bonus, which makes sense there. If they are able to hit A, B, and C, we get a certain amount of subscribers. Okay, Mike and Chris get a nice little check. That's kind of usually how things work. So in that scenario, you're playing this game. You played 13 games out of a 17-game season. Check. Here's an extra $3 million. And then after what? 3 years, that $3 million's doubled, $6 million. After that, $12 million. So when it's all said and done, you can have an additional $12 million. This is just me just throwing out random numbers, but I think that is a start, and that should be available for everybody, not just running backs, for all players. It's kind of what you allude to, Mike. Well, we don't want to just give one thing to running backs because then what about linebackers? What about this position? Guys are going to feel, well, hey, my position is important too. Although I'm not getting hit every play per se, and I might, as a punter, you're not really in a car accident every play, but you might get roughed up every now and then. But for the players that are out there, I think everyone should get an opportunity to be compensated at the end for staying healthy. I think that's fair.
Well, and playing a lot and playing well. It's all factored in. Like, I think Tariq just got that bonus last year. Chris Carson has got it in the past. There's some other escalators as well. If you play a certain amount and you're a certain round draft pick, like the fourth year of your contract, your base pay goes up. Chris Carson got that. I think DK got that as well. Trey Flowers hit that mark as a fifth round pick a couple times. I want to say, I think he got a lot of like escalators in his contract. So yeah, I think like making that pool, allocating a little bit more money from that, like basically you treat it like the NBA does, kind of like with the Supermax. Yeah, pretty much. Like if you're good early, you can make more money, pretty much. And you can do that for every position because I think you're going to have to do it that way. I think you try to isolate running backs, you just open a can of worms that the owners don't want to get to. Dang, that was a long answer to that question. Can I give a hot take real quick before I go to the next question?
It's been a minute, Mike. Get us going.
I disagree that football is a kid's game. Like, I hear that a lot. I don't think it is. It's way too violent to be something that is inherently for children. Like it just is. It's not. I think like playing catch or something like that.
As Americans, what do we idolize as Americans? For example,
no, you can idolize it, but that don't make it a kid. Like what's a kid's like being on a seesaw is like a kid's like activity. You know,
running,
like
catching a football and tackling someone is a kid's game, Mike.
I don't think tackle football is a kid's game, which is why you have to even be a certain age before you can even play it. Like I think, like in some, like I think
8 years old, is that the starting age? 6?
Yeah, but like if it was a kid's game, all kids would be able to play it when they can, run and catch.
They can barely, you can
exactly.
You
That's why I don't think it's a kid's game too. Kids can't do all the functions.
Same with a seesaw though. You can't rely on a 3-year-old to sit there and hang on tight. Yeah, wait till like 6. So there's age restrictions on that too, Mike.
Maybe a seesaw is not the best example, but I just don't think that football is inherently for children. It's far too violent.
Okay, maybe I'll reword it. Let me reword it. It's not a kid's game. It's a game.
Yeah, that's all. It's just a game, but it's also a business too.
Well, yes. Once you get to the next level, it definitely becomes a business.
Yeah. So
I get where you're going with it, though. I'm just trying to find the other way of saying it's a not kids game, but it's a kids game because kids play it and they enjoy it and they look at it. I get what you're saying, though. I just got to find out how to explain it.
Yeah, and maybe everybody says that too. It's like fans will use that when players want to hold out or something. Like, you get paid all this money to play a kids game. It's like, bro, I don't think this is a kids game. Like right now, there's like a national debate of where we should even let kids play it.
Yeah, you're making very strong arguments here. Maybe I should find a way to get that out of my language here, and because basketball is a kids game.
I could go with basketball as a kid's game.
There. So yes,
I can't. I think football is far too violent to be like, this is a kid's game. It's like, no, it's really not. Like,
what,
it's concussion inducing.
You don't want your kid getting a concussion.
Nothing, and it's inherently concussion inducing too because of the violence. Like you can get a concussion playing baseball, but I don't think football and boxing and any combat sport is inherently like concussion inducing, like especially boxing and football where head injuries are just quite literally naturally part of how you play.
It's going to happen.
Same thing with boxing. Like the goal is to hit dude in the head. Like it's not like a byproduct. That's the goal. That's like, it's like saying boxing is a kid sport. No, it's not.
No, you're right.
It's an adult sport.
Now, the longer we talk about it, the more you're making more sense. I'm like, damn, Chris, you're losing this one. This is not a kid's game.
Yeah, so that was my hot take. I felt this way for a little bit here. Just like whenever it really started, I think when Earl Thomas held out in 2018 and there were fans tweeting me or him or just like making the argument that he got paid X amount of money to play a kids games. Like, why is he doing this? In my head, I'm like, this is not. I've watched guys play football up close. Like if we watch practice, this will be the last thing I say, and that's a promise. Like practice is one thing, but like at Washington State, they used to, I think they still do this, and a lot of colleges will do this for the final 4 minutes of a game. They'll let you go from the press box to the field, so you can watch the final minutes. And I've done that a few times at Wazoo games. Football's not a kid's game. If you watch the football, and that's just Pac-12 football, you watch it from the field, you hear them hits, and that's not a kid's game. It's a game that kids can play, but it's not inherently I don't see it as a kid's game.
Last thing,
I watched Concussion last month. This ain't no kid's game.
My last thing is the name of this podcast. Football is not a kid's game.
I'm putting that in when I tease the topic. I'm gonna put that in there. Like, football is not a kid's game. It's my hot take for like. You probably won't get another one out of me for a while, but yeah, it's my hot take.
This next one comes from David Housden. How much space will the re-signing of Uchenna Nwosu open up for free agency, if any? And do you think the Seahawks are likely to see any more contract restrictions from here?
That's a good question. I'd have to see the full Uchenna deal. I basically would have to see. Here's the specific things I'd have to see. I would have to see what they changed his base salary to for 2023. I think currently it's pretty high. I think currently it was like, what, 13 million or something like that. His cap hit was pretty high. So over the cap has it at 7.5. So not as high as I thought. But the way to lower his cap hit is to see what the signing bonus was, divide that by whatever, 3 or 4, whatever, the length of the extension, and then apply that to whatever they lowered his base salary to. So if like Quandre's restructure, according to overthecap.com, they lowered it to the minimum for a player with however many years Quandre's been in the league. So it's like 1.16 million. If you do that with Uchenna, you lower his base to 1.16. And then let's say he got a $20 million signing bonus, divide that by 4. Because the year he already had left plus 3 new years, divide that by 4, whatever that is, 1.1 plus what's 20 divided by 4? 5?
Jesus.
So 1.16 plus 5 million would make his cap hit 7 and some change.
You said 28 divided by 4?
No, 20 divided by 4. Assuming he has like a $20 million signing bonus, you take that number, divide that by 4. Let's say that he got the veteran minimum for however many years he's been in the league. Maybe that's like 1 million for, I think it's year 6. So say it's 1 million. You take his 1 million, you add that to his signing bonus divided by 4. That'd be about 6 mil, give or take. I don't think that's exactly what happened. His base is probably a little higher than the minimum. I would guess probably like 2 or 3 million. So it probably takes his cap hit from 13 million to around like 9. I guess maybe saves like 4 million, maybe 4 and some change. That would be my guess without seeing the numbers. But when I say I need to see the numbers, those are the specifics I'm looking for. I need to see his new base salary for 2023. I need to see his signing bonus proration. I don't have those numbers off the top of my and available to me right now. They will be after a little bit. Probably by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be out. Quandre's restructure should free up something in the same range, maybe like 6 million. So they're saving anywhere from 10 to 11 million. I do want to keep in mind and remind people that the Seahawks, they hoard cap space. Like they don't just use it all and go into the season with like $800,000. They save money for like injury payments. They save money for practice squad elevations. Because like, for example, if you're on the practice squad and you're making $9,000 a week, when you get elevated, you're getting a game check now. And let's say you make the minimum divided by 18 for that, because you get paid over 18 weeks. If the minimum is 600,000, divide that by 18 or whatever, and someone gets upgraded, so Jake Bobo plays against the Chargers or something like that, okay, he goes from making 9,000 on the practice squad to 50,000 or whatever. So he has to have 49,000 extra to give him, right? So where do you pull that money from? Your salary cap. So stuff like that. There's a bunch of other reasons that you don't just go into it with zero cap space or like 600,000 or 800,000 or $1 million. Or just be in the red. You usually want to have some wiggle room. The Seahawks have always been like that, just in case you also want to make a trade, which I do think is possible. So I do think these restructures are about having flexibility to do stuff, not necessarily like, oh, we're freeing this up so we can sign so-and-so. They could do that, but I do think the Chenna deal is probably about just keeping one of their guys, but also about flexibility. And the Quandre thing, same way. I think they restructured Tyler Lockett's deal too earlier this offseason. So some of that is just about flexibility. And when they do it, I don't think it's in the past. It's been for some trades. I think they restructured Doug, for example, to bring in Dwayne Brown, I think. And they restructured Russ, I want to say, to bring in Sheldon Richardson. Maybe I'm flipping those, but you guys get what I'm saying. Sometimes it's been for a trade. Sometimes it hasn't been. So I think A, it's part of flexibility. B, I think it would be for a veteran minimum guy, even if they were doing it. I don't think like they're trading for Chris Jones tomorrow with this money. I'm sorry. Chris Jones would be nice in Seattle, but I don't think that's what this is for.
With Bobby Wagner and Jamal Adams being back this season, do you think the Seahawks will be able to stop the run?
Yeah, I do think that those two in particular, if they play together quite a bit, I don't know how much Jamal will be able to play. By the time this podcast comes out, we'll have learned whether he is on the physically unable to perform list and pass the physical and all that stuff. If he is, that's great, because that means he's probably on track to play. If Bobby and Jamal play together, like if you look at the games that they have played and finished together, there's not a lot of games in there where the Seahawks have been bad at stopping the run. You get a game like the Titans game with Derrick Henry, and it's just like, okay, well, shit happens. I think that is what Jamal said after the game, quite literally. I think he said it to me, actually, after the game, that Derrick Henry game in 2021. But other than that, you don't really see them have a bad season or even a bad stretch of defending the run, because those two guys are elite run defenders to me. Still, not like in the past. Like I think Jamal Adams right now is still an elite run defender. I think that's the thing he does the best, is defend the run from multiple depths. He can do it from lined up right at the line. He can do it from 15 yards off the line. I do think that's one of his best traits. So I'm of the impression, yes, you will not see, put it this way, I think there was a direct correlation between those two not playing and the Seahawks having a bad run defense last year. Like you got to have guys that can tackle. Jamal can tackle. Like he plays. I know it's frustrating for you guys when he does play, when he's not hurt, or excuse me, when he's not on the field because he's hurt, but he also plays hurt quite often. And when he does, he still plays well, particularly against the run. For just isolating run stuff, Jamal can do it. And then Bobby's been excellent at it. Bobby's probably still a top 5 linebacker against the run in the NFL. Like that's he's because he's such a sound tackler. He knows where plays are going. He's still got decent speed flowing to the ball when he's running forward. So like I think those two alone will make a huge difference. And you guys saw last year how much sometimes their replacements just didn't get it done. Whereas whether it's Cody or even sometimes Jordan, who I also think is a really good run defender, earlier in the year where they were rotating a bunch of safeties, like Josh Jones damn near got benched because he couldn't tackle, right? Like when a safety can't tackle, it's noticeable. Remember he always yelling at Quandre earlier in the year because he wasn't tackling? Yeah, because when you see him miss, it's a big play, right? So, yeah, I think there'll be a few reasons I think the run defense could be better. One is it just can't get much worse. But the other thing is, yeah, those two, if they do play a lot together, are going to make such a huge difference. I think Quandre and Jamal as a safety duo is about as good as it gets in terms of stopping the run at the safety spot. Those two are really, really, really good. I think Buddha is probably one of the other guys who's really, really, really good. Kevin Byard too, in terms of safety. So, yeah, I do think that just having those two back will change everything with the run defense.
This next one comes from Brendo Pretendo. After the Seahawks signed Uchenna, the odds of re-signing Daryl Taylor look low unless he has a 15-plus sack season. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one, and I don't know if I spread some misinformation on this earlier in the year because I didn't look it up, but Daryl is actually, from my understanding, and this was Over the Cap has it correct too, and I was told this maybe at the owners' meetings, Daryl should be a restricted free agent after this year because he did not play as a rookie. I don't think he got that accrued season towards free agency. So after this year, he should just be like what Ryan Neal was, what Puna was in the past, Brian Monet. You guys know how RFAs work. You know, there's a little different. So that's actually great news for the Seahawks, bad news for Daryl. So I don't think that Chenna's deal directly impacts Daryl in that way. If they were both scheduled to be free agents next March, like, okay, then yes, one of them is probably not going to be re-signed at a high number. That's just the economics of the game, like we were talking about, finite resources. But nah, if Daryl has 10 sacks or something next year, or this coming up season, then cool. You can put an RFA tag on him for like $5 million.
Keep him.
You know, and then if somebody wants him, then they have to give you a second round pick for him. That's if you put the second round tender on him. There's also the first round tender, which I don't know the number for that off the top of my head, but you guys get the point. The point is, if he balls out, there are mechanisms in place for the Seahawks to keep him without having to just match whatever Chenna just got. So sucks again. That kind of stinks for Daryl, but he's young. He still get paid. But yeah, being a restricted free agent is a whole lot different than being an unrestricted free agent. So yeah, Daryl, quietly, Chris, you realize this? He has like 16 sacks over the past 2 years. Like he's kind of been eaten a little bit strictly as a pass rusher.
It's the slow start, and he picks it up at the end, as we did last season. He had a very slow start, and at the end of the year, he just went bonkers. It's like, damn, where was this the first 9 weeks? So if he can find a way to do it week in and week out, 15 sacks is definitely doable for him. But he just has to hit the ground rolling from week one. Because I remember in training camp last season, he was talking about. Hell, I even tweeted he looked faster. He looked as if he was going to be a problem. And that problem didn't really take force until later in the season, which helped because the Seahawks finished, top 10 in sacks? If not,
that's surprising. Yeah, they're like 45 sacks or something like that. It was like 7. It's crazy.
The whole season, this team, well, not the whole season, half the season, where everyone was wondering, where are the sacks? What's up with this pass rush? Then at the end of the year, somehow, some way, they had sacks. And Daryl Taylor was a focal point, including Uchenna Nwosu.
Yeah, I'm looking at how many he had 16. He's 16 in his first 2 years in the league. He has a total of 16. Now sacks aren't everything, but like for example, Danielle Hunter has 16 and a half in that same span, although in a lot fewer games. But I'm looking at some of the other guys near him. You know, Aaron Donald has 17 and a half in that same span. Danico Autry of the Titans, Jeffrey Simmons of the Titans has 16. Deron Payne, Rashawn Gary of the Packers. Now Daryl's playing a few more games than some of these guys, so I probably should look at like sack rate. But you guys get the point. He's getting, Chandler Jones has 15, in that same span, and he's be getting the bag. DeForest Buckner has 15 in that same span. No, he's a defensive tackle, but Jalen Phillips of the Dolphins. But Daryl's pretty young. He's getting to the quarterback. So yeah, that's actually a big deal for this team. I think that to have so many guys who are so young with so much like potential to get to the quarterback, like Chenna is still really realistically only making like 15 mil. Like the top of the edge rusher market is whatever Nick Bosa's about to get, and that should be like what 28, 29 million. Chenna's realistically practically getting like about half of that. And he is a guy who's had 14 and a half over the past 2 years. So yeah, I think to answer the question, I don't think Chenna's situation is tied directly to Daryl's in that regard, but yeah, he's been eating a little bit. And like you said, Chris, has been pretty inconsistent. What he needs, I think, is not only to be more consistent, but he needs one of them games where he feasts on like a third string right tackle or something like that, ends up with like 3 in one game and kind of boosts the numbers a little bit, which everybody gets one of those. Like everybody. I'm not even just the second or third tier guys. Like Aaron Donald definitely has games where he just whoops on like the Seahawks third string center that day and has like 2 or 3. Chandler Jones has done the same thing. Chandler Jones had like 4 sacks one game rushing against, I want to say like George Fant playing like right tackle.
Isn't that the year he had 18, like something crazy? He went
and he led the league that year. Yes.
Yeah.
Still Barrett led the league with like 18 or 19 that year. So when you get one of those games, it boosts everything. So I think that Daryl needs one of those where like the other team's right tackle has a torn bicep, so he's out, and then the second stringer comes in and some rookie, and Daryl just whoops his ass for like an hour. And it's like, oh damn, Daryl had 3 sacks, on the forced fumble. And it's like, oh, okay. Then his numbers look a lot better at the end of the year, and then he gets the bag. So that's something to look out for. I knew Daryl had that many because I was literally there for every one of them, but I just didn't put it together until I was looking at some numbers one day. I was like, oh, Daryl's going to get paid if he just has another 8. That's 24 sacks in 3 years. He's getting paid.
Yep.
Definitely getting paid. And he'll only be like 27.
This next one comes from Chris Leeper at Rosebug_22. The Hawks overachieved last season. Could the pendulum swing back this year and they underachieve?
Yeah, I think so. We have to define what the number of like how to define over and underachieving. But what's their betting market right now, Chris? Like 8.5?
8.5.
Yeah, 8.5 wins. What last year was like 5.5.
Last year it was bad. 5.5 this year. Let me look it up, but I'm going with 8.5.
I'm pretty sure it was 5. I'm on like we have like a deal with like BetMGM at The Athletic, so I get a ton of like betting stuff all to my email like 5 a.m. every day. Never gamble, folks, unless it's with BetMGM because they're with The Athletic. But I think it was 5.5 last year, 8.5 this year. Yeah, so could they underachieve? Yeah, I could go like 8 and 9 or something, 7 and 10. I do think like you do have to be good in some very specific areas to maintain success year over year. You have to be, I would say, low in turnovers, efficient with your passing offense, efficient on third down, efficient in the red zone, efficient in goal line, efficient on third down. That goes both ways. Same thing in the red zone and goal line, like offense and defense. Yeah. Those things, if in quarterback play, if those things stay consistent, you should be good like every
10 wins. There you go.
Yeah, like that should baseline you around 10 if those things stay consistent. You don't turn the ball over, you're efficient passing the ball, you're efficient in stopping the pass, and you're efficient situationally. 2-minute, third down, red zone, goal line. You're probably going to be a good team. No matter what, even if you just like stink at at something else, like the Eagles last year, for example, were good in all of those scenarios, I believe, and then had just like a very not good run defense. And they were fine. They're like one of the best teams in football. So I do think there's room for some regression. I don't think that the Seahawks benefited greatly from 1-score games, which is another way you see teams regress. Because, Chris, I think we can both agree the Vikings are probably due for like huge regression. Like I'm talking
started 8-2.
Doug, I think
they were so bad in one specific area.
They went 11-0, I want to say, in the regular season in 1-score games. I'm pretty sure they did. And then I think they finished 11-1 because they lost their one in the playoffs to the Giants. Like if the Vikings won like 4 games this year, I would not be shocked. I'd be like, yeah, that's how math works. You're due for some serious regression. The 2019 Seahawks, I want to say, were like that. I think they had a lot of 1-score wins. And when you live that way, it's hard to sustain that because a holding call here, an OPI there, a tipped pass there, a missed field goal here and there, and it can change your whole record. So I don't think I bring that up to say because the Seahawks, I forget what their record was in 1-score games last year, but it wasn't like where I felt like they were super lucky. They actually lost a lot of one-score games, if I remember correctly. So I actually think they're on pace to be they're just about to achieve. Is that an option? We got overachieve, underachieve. I just think they're about to achieve. I think that they're built kind of just to be as good as Vegas thinks, or the Vegas and the bettors think that they are going to be. Like they should have a good offense. Defense might not be so hot. They should be hot on special teams. Their quarterback should be good. They should run the ball well. But it feels like, Chris, every year they're deficient at something on defense, like really bad. Like every year.
Would you rather it be the run or the pass?
Ooh, man. That's a good question. Because we've seen a little bit of both over the past few years, haven't we?
I'd say give me the run.
What was it in 2020? I think they couldn't stop the pass at that time.
They gave up like, what was it, against Atlanta? They were just throwing the ball all over the place. I said, God damn.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, because I remember Matt Ryan threw for like 400.
Yeah, I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, they were getting cooked through. Dak came in here and just carved him up. And,
he threw for 300.
That was that year. So, yeah, and then 2021, I think it was the pass as well to start. And then the last year was the run defense. So, yeah, every year it's something. So, I throw that in.
You didn't pick one, though, Mike.
I think that you are asking for more trouble if you can't stop the pass.
Oh, yeah.
That would be my – like, when you can't stop the pass, it just looks so bad.
You know what?
Looks like,
who's one team off the top that couldn't stop the pass last season?
The Bears were one.
There you go.
The Lions as well. But the Bears were pretty bad. Because, like, when you can't stop the run, like your defense looks bad, but it doesn't look like – unless you give up one big – like, unless you have, like, a Derrick Henry runs for, like, 200 on you, you can kind of stay off Sports Center. But if someone like hits you for 500 or 400
every week,
yeah. Oh yeah, that NFL account's gonna be hitting you all week with highlights from the other team. So that's tough. You don't want to be bad, and you don't want to be super deficient in either. But if you had to pick, I think
give me the run.
Yeah, when your pass defense is bad, dog, you get some That's the other thing. You get some quarterbacks who look generational against you who shouldn't. And that's when it gets real bad. Like one year, Andy Dalton threw for 400 yards against these guys. I think that was the 2019 opener. And it's like
the Saints, right?
No, Andy Dalton as a member of the Bengals.
I'm tripping. That's right.
Yeah, I think he threw for like 400. Remember that he had that one? He had to do like a flea flicker for like 50 yards over Tedrick Thompson's head to John Ross. It's like you get that type of stuff happening, and it's like, ooh, you don't want that. So yeah, I would have to vote pass. When your pass defense is bad, people just start getting fired pretty quick. And yeah, you just don't want that.
This next one comes from Cody Marmon. Russell Wilson trade is complete. From the draft picks perspective, we got the names and the Seahawks 22 rookie class combined to start 70 games. What's the expectations for this 23 rookie class to perform similarly?
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting back to, because last year there was a lot of spots open for grabs, or up for grabs. And there's some open right now, but not nearly as much. Like it's very rare that two tackles start as rookies. Why? Because the team usually has a starter at least one of those spots coming into a season, preferably both. But the Seahawks didn't. It's pretty rare, So I think that a lot of how often rookies play is just opportunity. So I think that the opportunities are not as easily there for this class. There are some, like Zach's going to get some tick. Derek Hall should get some tick, particularly since they cut Alton Robinson right before we started recording. So there's going to be some opportunities in the edge room. Who else can get some tick? Olu can get some tick. He's just basically got the one guy to beat out in Evan Brown. I know we've got Joey Hunt there too, but you guys kind of catch my drift. So I do think this class has some opportunities, but like Tariq had a pretty clear path there. Him and Kobe, I think, just because at the time I think the starters were like Artie Burns and Sidney Jones. No disrespect to them, but like it's not like playing behind Richard Sherman, right? It's not like playing behind Cam Chancellor or Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett or Bobby. Like Cody and BBK had much harder paths to the starting lineup by comparison. You see what I'm saying? Like it's a lot harder to get by Bobby and KJ than it is to perhaps get by Sidney and Artie. So, but I think this 2023 class does have some challenges. In that regard, particularly in the trenches. Though I do think Cam Young should play a lot. It'd be hard like for anybody to crack the secondary. I guess I shouldn't even highlight the trenches, but like Devin Witherspoon should have some ops, and even Jackson, right? Jackson's a first round pick and might be the third best guy in his position room. That's tough. So I think that you should expect the guys picked the highest to crack the lineup, but I think realistically, if I had to pick the most impactful dudes, just like right here on July, whatever day it is, my guess would be Jackson, Devin, and probably Cam Young. I think after that, you're going to need some injuries for guys to crack it. But I think just everyone healthy, Jackson and Devin, and then Cam Young, I think at nose. Those would be the three. I think we have a question in here someone's asked which rookies are going to be most impactful. I think I'll just skip ahead and go ahead and answer that. Those would probably be my three guys. I think they just have the easiest opportunity to play when everyone is healthy. We had a question in there on that?
Yeah, that was from Holly, and I'll go ahead and jump in and just give my 2 cents. I would say I'm going to go with the favorite, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm just going to go with the guy that I think will be huge in certain scenarios that the Seahawks were bad in. And Mike alluded to those things, which was third down. Well, now you have a guy that should be wide open on third down because you have DK and Tyler, who did not make the top 100, but they're out there doing – or was it actually –
Tyler didn't make the top 100 either?
Hang on. I'm jumping ahead. I know DK and Quandre did, and I think Tyler did actually.
I haven't been paying attention. I'm
pretty sure Tyler I'd be stunned if he didn't. Not seeing DK on there, surprising, not surprising. Maybe a little hate, but also Quandre was stunning, but yeah. Anyways, I'm going to go with Jackson. I think Jackson is going to be pivotal in how good this offense can be. And he was a top pick, so he's got to go out there and do his thing, and I think he will fit right in.
Yeah, I think the best way to probably summarize it is the guys at the back end of this class probably won't be as impactful as the guys in the back end of the 2022 class. Like, you had a fifth rounder make the Pro Bowl, right? That's just kind of rare. But I think that the top end should be still pretty good. Like guys like Jackson and Devin, like the guys in the first round should be just as impactful as the guys from the top of last year's class, or even if you count Tariq in there in the back end. Like that's where you're going to get the most impact, I think, is from Jackson and Devin, which you should.
Speaking of Tariq, going to go off on a little 30-second tangent. I don't know how the hell he did not crack the top 20 in Madden 24. It doesn't make any sense. None.
What's he rated?
83.
Dang, that's not even top 20. Yeah, that's a little weird. I think
83 or 84 is insane.
My 20-second comment on that is that I can see an argument for Sauce being a better player than Tariq and having had a better rookie season.
But not.
I do not think overall. I don't think the gap between them is as wide. Even if there is, let's say I just acknowledge there's a gap. I don't think it's nearly as wide as like the top 10 rankings from players, executives, and coaches that Jeremy Fowler does at ESPN. I don't think that gap was crazy. The Madden ranking gap between those two was crazy.
He had
if Tariq makes the top 100, the interception total. Like if Tariq makes the top 100, I know if he makes it and Sauce makes it, I bet you there's gonna be like 30 people between the two of them. Like I just don't think that the gap between those two is as wide as it seems. Like, even if you think Sauce is better and had a better season, that's fine. I don't really care about that. The gap is not that. Like they both had excellent seasons. Like one guy is not
Mike.
He was future Hall of Famer, the other guy is just good. You know, like they both were excellent. I don't think that there's a significant gap between the two based on how they performed last year. I can't watch all that and do that.
EA, are you guys hiring? I'm looking to take over your performance-based group because what you guys are doing is just wrong. Tariq should be at minimum an 85. And that's if you want to be real strict about it and you've been watching film and you're thinking, okay, no, 85 at worst. And that would put him in the top 20. He didn't even crack the top 20. But moving on, this is from Chris Lee. What are your thoughts on Al's comments on the 3-4?
Yeah, so to sum up what Al Wood said, which I believe was in a press conference with Jets Media, I just saw it on my timeline and quote tweeted it. I'm not really sure what the question was even. But basically, Al was like, I don't like catching blocks and stuff like that. He was like, I was tired of that. So I looked for something else when signing with the Jets. And yeah, that's without naming a bunch of guys. Some guys have said stuff like that on the record, but like it's come to my attention, not even just last year, multiple years. Guys have just not been happy with how they've been used up front. And you guys have seen it. Like, we're not even breaking news on here. Benson was not used the right way. At least the way that maximizes what Benson Mayowa brings in 2021. We just, everyone could see that. Carlos Dunlap was pretty open about it. Same thing. Like, the guys, Quentin Jefferson was open about it during the season last year. It's like, yo, let us loose. Let us just go attack, penetrate. That's what we're best at. When we look around the room, we best at that. Al Woods basically said the same thing. Like, it's not to say that a 3-4 defense can't work and that like 2 gapping and 1.5 gapping and catching blocks and mirror stepping, like, it's not to say that stuff can work. Plenty of teams run 3-4 and they're great defenses. It's just like, is that the best use of what your guys do? And with Al, I think he's so good he can do anything. But like last year, I just don't think they were using Puna the right way. And then Puna, I think, admitted that on the record too. I'm pretty sure. If he didn't, sorry, Puna, I just spilled that. But I think Pete has acknowledged it as well. But guys have been complaining about this for a little bit here. Leaving last year's defense, the year before that, guys haven't liked, particularly up front. I haven't heard many gripes from the secondary. But yeah, up front, it's been pretty consistent.
Trey Flowers.
Yeah. Trey was one of the guys in the secondary.
He was the only one.
Yeah, and then they just got him up out of there. But I do think that what Al said is pretty online with what a lot of other guys have said. And I do think part of it is something that you guys can see when you watch the games, how the guys are being used in this scheme, which is a fine scheme if you got the horses for it. Like, if you don't have the horses for it, guys they're doing stuff they can do, but it's not what they do best. And that's what you really want to maximize in the NFL, is what your guys do best. Like, guys can play in this scheme. Like, Selby Harris was doing the same damn thing in Denver. And he was actually decent last year too. But, like, is that what he's best at? I think Puna was the really good example. Puna can do damn near anything. But if you put him in certain alignments and ask him to play certain techniques, you're not getting the best out of Puna. So I think that's the issue that they ran into. With Al in particular, Al played good. So I really think that his opinion is really, really, really valid, because sometimes you can hear guys say some stuff and be like, well, dude, you sucked. It probably didn't matter what technique we were playing. Like, Trey Flowers is probably a good example. Like, people didn't care what technique they were playing. It's like, Trey, we as fans think you aren't good, so we don't care. But like, Al played great every year he was here. And I use the word great. Like, he played great every year he was here. And he still was like, I wasn't really rocking with that. So I think that they do need to take that into account and adjust the scheme accordingly. Because I do think how they were doing some things last year without being a scheme expert, hearing from the guys who play in it, they were just like, not really rocking with it. And I think that's really what matters. Like, it is. If they not getting the best at themselves playing that scheme, do something else or teach it better or get them out of there. And then get guys in who that is what maximizes their skill set. Hopefully they did a little bit of better job of that this year. There's still it's still going to take some learning from some guys like Cam Young didn't do what they're actually going to ask Cam Young to do this year. He did not do at Mississippi State. Doesn't mean he can't, which is not what he did. So keep that in mind. If in week 8, you're like, damn, we ain't getting nothing out of Cam Young. It's like, maybe could have saw that coming. But I do think Al's comments, they were fascinating to me because Al doesn't really say much. He pretty much said that straight up. It's like, yeah, nah. Other schemes, not just Seattle, but just other schemes where I had to do all that catching and 2-gapping and eating up blocks so the linebackers could eat. Yeah, nah. Let me go get mine, which is what he's going to be doing in that jet scheme.
This next one comes from Thorsten. Can the Seahawks, we as Seahawks fans, can we expect any free agency additions at this point? Should the Seahawks add any players, especially veterans, as they've done in the past, to fill any holes on the roster?
I don't think you're going to see anything splashy. I do think the cap space they filled up will get you like, who's some guys like around this time last year was like, not last year, but in the past, who have they signed around this time? Like, they got Paul Richardson around this time one year. Didn't they sign Brandon Marshall around this time in like 2018? Yeah. They brought back J.R. Sweezy, I think, one year around this time. Like, I rattle off those names to say, like, guys, this, Aaron Donald's not walking to the door, like, with the extra $3 million in cap space. You're going to get some corner who was on IR on his previous team or like washed out. Like, they claimed DJ Reed around this time, I think in 2020 or whatever. Like, I think those are the acquisitions. And yeah, I could go through a list and see who's out there. No one really moved me too much. I do think we have a question about some free agent potential people. Did we already do that one, or is that this one?
This one.
Yeah. So like I looked it up a little bit. Like I liked I should say this. I like any of the running backs that are out there. For real. Like, yeah, these guys probably aren't going to get like $10-12 million a year, but damn, if it only takes you 3 or 4 to get Dalvin Cook, press the button, folks. Like, I'm in on that. Who else is out there? I just saw a list the other day. It was like Dalvin, Zeke is still available. I had completely forgot that Zeke isn't on a team. Leonard Fournette, I think, is still not on a team. Kareem Hunt. Yeah, it's not any of those guys. Are you kidding me? If it's only going to cost you 4 or 5 million, 3, whatever. I like all of those additions. As much as we just talked about running backs earlier, like at those prices, come on, give me Zeke for $4 million. Are you kidding me?
Let's look at the D line. Were there any guys out there, maybe Jadeveon Clowney, that caught your eye? Maybe.
Oh, that's right. Yes, thank you. Yeah, bring Clowney back. This scheme fits Clowney.
3-4.
Yeah, he can
edge rush. There you go.
Yeah, he's a stand-up guy. He can set the edge. He's a really good run defender. He was that when he was here, and I'm pretty sure he was in Cleveland too. I didn't watch a ton when he was in Cleveland that year, or however long he's been there. So yeah, I think there's a few guys like that. I was surprised to see like Yannick Ngakoue, I think, is still a free agent. That was pretty surprising. Probably can't afford him. Probably can't afford Clowney either. But I do like any of those additions. I'm not as worried about the pass rush as I was maybe like 2 months ago once I started watching some more film and looking at some numbers. They just got to be more consistent up front, but I do think they have some decent horses, particularly if they blitz a little bit more and get Jamal back. I think they could be like a 50-sack team, which is going to get you in the top 5 in most seasons, if not number 1, depending on the year, as long as the Eagles don't have the best sack team ever like they did last year. So yeah, Clowney. Any of those running backs, I know it's like thinking, Mike, we just drafted Zach, we drafted Ken. I feel you, but it's like we've seen that guys get hurt. Like they had to sign Adrian Peterson off the scrap heap, what, 2 seasons ago? Yeah. Had to sign Marshawn Lynch off the scrap heap 3 or 4 seasons ago. Like come on, just going in and saying, hey, Mike, all the guys we have are going to stay healthy. So why would we add? No. You're foolish to think that. And plus, I just don't think the money is that bad. Like, again, if it only costs you like $4 million to get Dalvin Cook, I know he won't come here and probably going to be a Dolphin, but even if it costs 2.5, 3, 4, or 5 to get Kareem Hunt, like I think they should, that'd probably be it for me. Anybody else, I just don't think is even guaranteed to make the 53. That's just the way I look at the roster.
And the last one from Thorsten, are there any players on the roster that surprisingly might get cut? The Seahawks might say, appreciate it, we're letting you go.
Yeah, I don't think any surprises. Alton Robinson getting cut right before we started recording this. That was like, I was like, I didn't think they would do that. But when I look at the roster, I don't think anything would be a super surprise. I do think one that would probably be like of note and would get talked about quite a bit in the draft history lore, or maybe not lore, it's not the right word, but in the draft, in John Schneider's draft resume, like if they were to cut D, I think after like 2 seasons, I'd be like, damn, man, you guys really whiffed on that Eskridge pick. Especially since the guy everyone wanted them to take, Creed Humphrey, is like one of the best centers in the league. That would make that even worse, but I don't think it would be like much of a surprise based on his availability, how much he has produced or not produced in that time. Everyone else, though, I'm pretty certain would not be too surprising. D is the one where I don't think they're going to cut D. I just think that D's in that spot where his draft status is not going to guarantee him a spot anymore. Like that runs out after a little bit if you're not productive at a certain level. So I think he's probably the one of the guys who are like notable. It's like, damn, we don't got him no more. Nick Bellore would be kind of surprising in that regard. They just signed him, so probably not. Ryan Neal was the one where I was like, damn, y'all cut Ryan? Dang, that one kind of stunk. But everyone else, am I missing somebody you think, Chris? That if they
no, I think
they enroll in him.
Wasn't no.
Yeah, I think the roster's pretty. There's not a lot of position battles and stuff up for grabs. Maybe Michael Jackson, if they were Michael Jackson or Trey Brown.
That would be stunning.
Trey Brown is probably like if they were to do that, I'd be like, damn, that's pretty surprising. Like even though the cornerback room was kind of crowded with what I think is some legit young talent, that would be surprising. In part because of how good he was when he was on the field as a rookie, and how much I know Pete Carroll loves him. like a Pete Carroll loves Trey. So that would be one as well. Everyone else, no, I think it either wouldn't be surprising or it's just not going to happen.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but now we're going to see if there's any other unrestricted free agents that are standing out. I know you, Jake Bobo, that's your boy, but is there anyone else, Mike, that you were kind of like, okay?
Oh, undrafted?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought Bobo was like my main guy. That's how he ended up being my boy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think he's the main one. I'm interested when we get to preseason games what some of these safeties look like. I don't really think there's much opportunity to play just because of Quandre and Julian Love, like, and Jarek Reed, like drafting him. I just don't think you're gonna get a lot of options. But I was intrigued by some of them. One of them young nose tackles, his name escapes me right now. I think he's the kid from San Diego State, named Jonah something. He's kind of interesting to me a little bit. Just because there's opportunities there at nose, but like none of the linebackers really jumped out to me like that. Not a lot of the guys on defense in general. Of the receivers, yeah, when watching camp, yeah, Bobo was my main guy. Like I do think, and this goes back to the question of the 2023 class and their expectations. I don't think there's a lot of spots up for grab on this roster. I do think the roster either has expensive guys at certain spots or just has talent at certain spots. So it's just, or guys drafted high at certain spots. I just don't think, like last year it was like, oof, yeah, they can start 5 rookies because I think 5 rookies can be better than the veterans they have. This year it's like, nah, man, the veterans on here are solid, or the guys that they paid a lot of money to or that drafted high, like, are pretty solid. It's going to be hard for these dudes to crack this team, which is what you want. When it was Legion of Boom years, it was hard as hell to make the team. It was. I think they're getting towards the spot where, like, yeah, unless you're Olu at center or Anthony Bradford at guard or Cam Young at nose, like, I think it's going to be hard for some of these guys to really, really, really crack the team as either a late round pick or a undrafted guy.
This next one comes from Phil Birnbaum. Who are the 3 players likely to get extended before the season starts?
Yeah, Chenna was like the main one. I thought, I guess he's probably like the top one. I can think of if they're not going to do Daryl. Like the Chenna deal was really big. I'm going to talk about the Chenna deal on this question. I talked about it earlier, but like Chenna in terms of practical money, his deal is like really what I understand, like a 3-year 45. That is a bargain for what this dude could be, man. I think Chenna's got potential to be really, really good. Like what they thought Clowney was going to bring them is what Chenna actually brings them. Like a really high-level run stopper who, when it's time to go get the quarterback, is just a badass. Like that's going to be a bargain. Chris, let me look up the highest paid edge guys right now. Assuming Nick Bosa is going to get paid here pretty soon too. TJ Watt makes $28 million a year. They're getting Chenna for practically 15. But if we even want to call it like 19, that's still, is that even in the top 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That'd be like 8th. And that's just looking at average per year. I'd have to look at some of the guarantees. But yeah, man, that's a steal for what Chenna brings. And good for Chenna too, because I think that I could have maybe advised him as his agent to be like, hey, man, you're only going to turn 27 in December. Maybe we wait to see if we can go get to free agency and get a big bag because of the way the market looks. Like, go have another 9.5 sack season. Then you're looking at 18 sacks over the last 2 – or no, that'd be 19 sacks over the last 2 years. You know, at age 27, that might get us $100 million the way this market looks. But for him to get that guaranteed money he got now, yeah, that's a win for him. I don't think, looking at the roster, if there's anyone else I'd really invest in now, but that's only because and that includes like Noah. I'm not big on that one, at least not right now, but like I think that they have so many good young guys who are like not about to come up. Like Tariq, don't got to pay for a little bit. Ken Walker, Charles Cross, Abe Lucas. Like that last class, I think they did really good. The only other one that I'll throw till we go to the next one is maybe Damian Lewis. That would be, he's entering the final year of his deal. Maybe if you want to try to get ahead of that now before he really takes that next step in year 4 and he costs a lot on the open market, that would be an interesting one. But hey, you drafted Bradford, in the 4th round. Maybe that's what you're thinking too. But Yeah, I think the other one would be Delu. That's an interesting one if they want to maybe lock that up right before the start of the season, have their O line kind of set at several spots, going forward.
This next one comes from Legion of Hawks. I don't think Pete Carroll gets enough credit for how well he molds his system to the personnel he has. So many examples of weaker rosters finding ways to be playoff teams. That being said, what changes do you think he brings to this group that has a young core, is raw, but very hungry?
Yeah, I actually kind of reject the premise of the question, but I'll answer it anyway because, like we just talked about, there's a history of using guys improperly, and it's a lot of it is on defense. But even then, we can go all the way back to Percy Harvin. We can go back to Jimmy Graham. We can go back to a few guys who actually weren't used as they should, and they were expensive guys too. Jamal Adams in 2021 is another example, I think. So, I actually reject the premise, but I like the question, so I'll answer it anyway. With this particular group, I think, and I wrote about this, I can't remember when the story actually came out. I wrote it in June, but I wrote about how the Seahawks have to choose what their identity is going to be offensively. And they need to choose between, like, are we going to be a run to set up the pass team or a pass to set up the run team? They've really never been the latter, but their talent suggests that they at least got to give it a shot. Or if you're not going to be, communicate that clearly and effectively and get the guys to buy in. Because as we've known on this show for quite some time, when the buy-in is not there behind the scenes, the product is reflective of that. Whatever, I don't care if you have a preference on what it should be. We know, we've talked about this on this show. I've done reporting on it as well. When the guys behind the scenes are not bought in, particularly the quarterback, but when guys are not bought in on what the philosophy is, it looks ugly on the field. You can see it. You can smell it. It just doesn't look right. You get moments where it's like guys cussing each other out or like leaking stuff or tweeting cryptic tweets. We've seen it. And I had some people telling me, like, Mike, they're just going to, like, why does it matter? Just be good at everything. It's like, yeah, I hear you, but trust me, I'm plugged in on this regard. You should establish an identity, communicate that effectively to your guys, and get them to buy in before the season starts, because that stuff matters. It really does. It matters to the players. It matters to the coaches, because when you start wishy-washy, like, what are we going to be? What are we going to, like, who are we as a team? You start to lose that. And if guys just don't agree with it, then they don't play as well, too. And then, like, you guys remember how frustrated you were in that 2018 season with how often they were running the ball, and then they did all that run pass, that sequencing that pissed people off. And then you get to the Cowboys playoff game, and it's like, why are we running the ball so much? Why don't we just throw it? Their DBs aren't very good. It's like, you think you guys were the only ones thinking that? No, man, the quarterback was too. And the quarterback wasn't alone. That's how Let Russ Cook was built. It wasn't just because it was y'all on Twitter. It was the guys inside the building too. Again, namely the quarterback, but he wasn't alone. So, and even then, some guys didn't like the Let Russ Cook thing. Some guys were like, why we should be running it more. We shouldn't let him cook. We should go back to our roots. So there's been years where the coaches or the players or certain players are just not on the same page. And I do think that's a particularly interesting discussion this year because, again, it's where the resources are allocated. DK makes a lot of money. Tyler makes a lot of money. Geno makes a lot of money. Those are your three best offensive players. You should maximize them, as much as you should try to maximize, as much as you should think about sticking to your roots or whatever. So, and then you spent the first round pick on a receiver. So, yeah, it's Chris, I'm a little worried here. This feels like a year where Pete has a plan, and then guys get in there and they're like, dang, I don't know, man. Like, you sure, big dog? Maybe, I don't know. I thought we should get the ball to DK a little bit more, Like, this is three of their best four offensive players are guys who catch the ball or throw the ball. That, I don't know, man. That I could see that not being. That needs to be clearly communicated, because if you be a run first team, that's fine, it can work. But, like, what's that mean for Jackson Smith-Njigba too? Like, how often are you maximizing his play? There's so much that we can get into. But yeah, that's I forget what even the question was to bring that up. But, like, it was molding the talent to, yeah. I think that's making that call on Pete's part is like, all right, guys, I know we've been in the past, but God damn it, man, look at this roster. We should start slinging this joint. Like, maybe that's the move. This doesn't mean not run it at all, but play to your strengths. You know, what's it? KYP. Know your personnel.
Know your personnel.
Play flag all the time. You know.
Yep. Yeah,
Know your
cats be
personnel.
throwing deep balls to dudes that don't know how to catch, and then look at him like, you can't catch it. It's like, come on, man, KYP, you can't throw a deep ball to X player. That's not his.
Yeah,
that's not his bag.
Know. Yep. And it affects your mindset too. You know, that's why they made hats that say run the damn ball and pass them around. There's a reason those hats don't say be balanced, right? Like they're trying to establish a culture that matters, because when you know what you preach to the players is what they eventually try to put on the field, you know, for better or worse. So keep that in mind this year, guys. If the offense doesn't look how you want, you know, starting the year.
This one's from Eric Wall. It seems like the Seattle media is not over Russell Wilson. Think that will ever happen?
I don't think so. I think there's always just going to be such an attachment to those guys that played in that era, for better or worse, whether they just hate guys or they love guys. Like, look at the reactions and the nostalgia associated with everything from the jerseys. I mean, not the jerseys. Jerseys are separate nostalgia, but like KJ's podcast right now, it's just nothing but nostalgia with just guys from that era, and it's doing great. Why? Because they're just reminiscing about the good old days for the most part. And there's just such an attachment to those guys because they were the greatest players of this franchise has ever seen, or they're responsible for this era. Maybe they're not the greatest players, like even Luke Wilson. You know, they just had Golden Tate, whoever, Mebane, like all that stuff. I don't think they'll ever really totally detach from that group until they win another Super Bowl, or at least get close. You know, like I think if Geno gets them close or gets them back to the Super Bowl, then it's like, all right, we can kind of move on from caring so much about the past. But I think that's just going to be like, even now, I think you can kind of see it with like, you don't see as much, like guys miss Earl and he's such a big deal. But like when you have another Pro Bowl safety who's getting all these interceptions in Quandre, it makes it easier to kind of just move on. But until you get that at these other spots, you're just going to see not us, because I don't really care, but see people longing for it, just dying to talk about Russ or even other players from that era. It's like, to move on, you need other players to kind of take over that legacy, so to speak. Because, man, yeah, they should let it go, though. Everything don't got to be about Russ. Let it go. Let him do his thing. And last year it made sense because there was a draft pick tied to how Russ performed. First year without Pete, I get it. Second year, I don't care. I say that as I'm wearing a Rockies hat, you know. So, but yeah, who cares, man? Let Russ do his thing.
The Rockies hat matches the fit. You get a pass.
Yeah, this is it's a shirt I bought my mom. She's a big Prince fan, so I bought this. And where's Prince from? Minnesota. Party like it's 1999 is what my shirt says. That's why I'm rocking this. Anyway, go ahead.
Zach Nixon returns with another one. Who do you see as the favorites to be Seattle's special teams punt returner and kick return? DJ Dallas is a good option, but isn't explosive. Great hands. The list can go on. Eskridge, McIntosh. Who you got?
Yeah, I care quite a bit about the returners. I just feel like there's so much to be gained by having like a dude who's elite back there, like when they had Tyler doing it. So my vote at punt return is going to sound biased because me and Chris both went to Washington State. Would be Easop Winston. But look at the numbers, man. Like when Easop was returning for the Saints, like he was actually really good. And I've actually heard that he's been good in practice too. The problem is just the numbers haven't lined up to make a receiver active on game day because they have so many that are active. So, and Easop would only be giving them something in the return game. So I'm not alone in thinking that, by the way. Other people have thought that as well, like in the building. So I would vote for Easop would be my first choice for punt specifically, not kick. Kickoff, I like to see Ken Walker back there, to be honest. Like, because if I'm going to put you back there, I want somebody that can take it all the way. And we know Ken can do that. And it's not as big a deal. Like, okay, like say Ken runs it for 35 yards. Like, okay, now he's tired. Well, damn, he's also our starting running back. Well, then just put Zach in and start that series. Charbonnet, that is. Then you're fine. And I don't even think you're running that much risk of injury necessarily. Because, I mean, how many kicks would he really return? What, 30 maybe in a season? Like 30 extra plays. Ken's 22 years old. He'll be all right. No, for real. Like, and you just have another guy. He's not your bell cow as is, and he's just so good. I think he's so good. He's a one-cut go. Well, he's not one-cut go, but he can cut and go. So I think he's got that speed, man, 4.3 speed. My other vote for kickoff return, if they're not going to have Ken do it, would be Trey Brown. I actually think Trey Brown would be really good for it too. Trey is also quietly very fast and good in open space. I think he did a little bit of Oklahoma as well. I think those would be. They're gonna try out a bunch of other dudes that I just don't really not move. They're not moving me quite yet. But yeah, those would be my votes. Chris, how you feel about D. Eskridge back there?
So for kick return, I would definitely want D. Eskridge, and I also want Derek Young. I think Derek Young can get busy back there potentially. He showed a little bit of it. He had a jet sweep, was it?
Yeah, against the Rams.
Yeah, got like 8 yards potential. All right. Punt return, D. Eskridge again. I think he just needs to get more opportunities, especially if he's not really on the field getting passes thrown. Okay, throw you back there, see if you can make something happen, get a spark going.
Yeah.
That would be my punt return. D. Eskridge and D. Eskridge only. Screw it. D, do your thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, if he's second round pick, man, at some point, it's like put him somewhere, like
just got to explode somewhere. Exactly. Yeah. Maybe he takes one to the house, and that's what he needs. And now he is a specialist. And then maybe they could.
I think he could do it. I think he could do it.
Find a way to get him back in the offense. You see how explosive he is. Okay, why don't you just throw a goal ball to him?
Yeah, I think
separation.
I think he's got wheels, man. He just hasn't been able to really show it because he hasn't been out there.
Exactly. So I would say kick return and punt return for D, and then also for kick return, I would see about Derek Young. This one comes from Daniel Humberg. Mike, when will you make it back out to Europe? And he said, bring me as well. We'll see about that.
I don't know, man. Getting to Europe's expensive, so I need the Seahawks to have another international game. I'm okay with them not having one this year because that travel is. Let me tell you guys, that travel is something. A lot of you guys have probably been overseas, but it's not easy to get to some of these places, man. It took me like 18 hours to get to Germany. I think 18 or 19. Like,
boy, the amount of drugs that I have to take to try to get some sleep. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's tough because then you have layovers, so it's like you don't want to totally drug yourself because then it's like you gotta wake up, walk to find your new gate, wait there, and then get back on the plane and then try to go back to sleep. So yeah, man, like I think I was on the plane so long in Germany, they served breakfast and lunch.
Oh my gosh.
And I wasn't even in first class. Like they was like, we know y'all all need to eat, and these little Delta cookies ain't gonna do it. And I was like, here's a full meal in the back of the plane. That's how long we was on that joint. So yeah, they don't have an international game this year. I'm not totally upset about it. Maybe if they go back to Germany next year or something, they're probably up for like a Mexico City game soon. But yeah, I'm not in a super rush. At least not on my own dime, man. It's expensive to get out there.
And just if we can go Mach 2 and I could comfortably sit in there, that'd probably get me there in a few hours as opposed to 18. Because that's nasty. Yeah. I'd rather if I could safely fly in a plane that travels 1,290 miles per hour, I will do so. I'm not about to sit in a plane that's traveling 500 miles per hour for 19 hours. That does not sound fun.
Well, that's what a layover too.
It did 10 hours plus flight. I can't sleep. I'm tired. I'm annoyed. Whew. Hell, Jamaica was long, and I was like, it was only 6 hours. Domestic, the longest flight, Seattle to Miami. And then another hour, which 7 hours. Okay, I can manage that. Once you start talking 12, 13, hey, man, do they got tranquilizers or something to just knock me out completely?
You don't want nobody to give you no tranquilizer. I can promise you that. You do not want that.
This last one comes from KP. What do you guys think the chances of the new throwback unis, or excuse me, what do you think of the new throwback unis, and then chances that they'll go back to this colorway with white away jerseys and maybe green alternate?
With white away jerseys, they're white. Their away jerseys are already white. They just have great pants. But the throwback jerseys. How do I do this without having a hot take? Throwbacks in general just necessarily don't move me. Like I don't like to live in the past. Like, yeah, maybe, wear them. If you got them, wear them. If you don't have them, I don't really care. I'm way more into designing like new jerseys and like giving designers an opportunity to be creative and create something new. Maybe with an ode to the past, but just like wearing the jerseys you wore in the 80s. It's like, I just don't care. Not just for the Seahawks, or that goes for baseball. That goes for football, basketball. Like I feel that way kind of about jerseys across the way. I have some old jerseys that I like. Not really from other teams, but like, for example, the old Toronto Raptors jerseys that when Vince was there, I love those, right? The Pistons jerseys that Grant Hill wore, big fan. But like, I don't think the Pistons should go back to those, or nothing. Like I just don't think that any team should do that. I think you should always be trying to push things forward with an ode to the past if it's appropriate, but like make something new, right? Do your own thing. That said, I like the way the jerseys look. I do think looking at some of the other teams that have throwbacks, the Seahawks probably have the best ones. I just think that blue is it's like a perfect blue. It really does hit. And it looks a little bit more modern than like some of the pictures, which makes sense because it's being made in 2023. So I do like it. I just don't think that, like, I think there's a lot of people now, I've seen online, it's like, we should go back to those forever. It's like, no, you shouldn't. Make something new. Like, I'm with that. Like, I felt about the Mariners too. Because I think I've only been to one game this year, maybe two. The one game I went to, they had on those like dark blue and black kind of look, I'm talking about? Like there was like a kind of royalish blue with the black pants. Have you seen those?
I probably said they were ugly, so yeah.
I mean, most people didn't like them. When I tweeted about it, I got like 100 responses. It was like, oh yeah, no, I'm not rocking with those. But yeah, I just like the attempts. I don't even know if those are throwback or just new, whatever. But like I'm big on trying something new. That said, I do like the way these look. The single digit ones of these are the most fire. Like if you guys are trying to buy one, I would suggest Quandre Ken Walker should be your like, and Gino should be like top. The either the single digit or the ones that are symmetrical, like 33, 22, 11, like that. Those are dog. Jackson Smith and Jigba's pictures in these, oh my God. Those look, I'm not even gonna, those look pretty great. Like Bobby looked cool. The Charles Cross was like, I don't know, whatever. I think Draymond Jones has some too, but like, nah, man. That 11, that 9, and that 6, like if Russ was here, dog, those would look fire. Like, they should make a Russ one.
Just because.
I don't think anyone's wearing 3 right now. So like they should make a Russ one just because those single digit, like I hope D. Eskridge pops this year because he has 1. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna look.
Want a hot take? Go out and buy a D. Eskridge jersey, number 1, the throwback uni.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I'm a bigger fan of the colorway than the jersey itself, if that makes sense. Like if they had if they bring back like the jackets, like that were this color, like the coaches used to wear, like with the snapback, like you see Chuck Knox in like that kind of colorway from back in the day, like that. I would rock that as like a fashion thing, or even like a hoodie or a shirt more than like football jerseys are just ugly to me. Like, so I'm not really a big fan. I think hockey, baseball, and basketball all have better jerseys. So football is like, I'm dropping a lot of fashion hot takes today, man. What do you think? You like them?
I do like them. I like them a lot. I remember John Kitna playing in them, and that was years ago. For those who remember who John Kitna
is. That's a pull. Yeah, everyone remembers John. He's still living around here, I believe.
Yeah, so that was just some nostalgia. Like, dang, I remember watching Seahawks, and those are the jerseys they would rock. So seeing them come back, it's really cool. I do agree with Mike as well that, you know what, let's make some new stuff. But I'm all in for the throwbacks. Keep it coming. If they're bad throwbacks, I think they had the 1920 Steelers throwbacks. Oh, God, that was disgusting. Remember those, Mike? They had like mustard and brown. It was like an ode to the 20s. I'm like, don't ever do that again. Do you remember those jerseys?
Yeah, I do. And that reminds me of my other like kind of jersey take. I don't think anyone should bring back any jerseys from an era where black people weren't allowed to play. Like I don't think we need to take an ode to that era at all.
True. There's no need. Terrible jerseys, terrible climate for us as humans. There's no need to even pay attention to that.
Yeah, even if they were fire, it's just like, yeah, look at our jerseys in the 1940s. What a time that was. Like, yeah, what a time it was, huh? Let's talk about it.
Couldn't even play.
Yeah.
How many black players did you draft?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the draft was like 1 million rounds back then too. So yeah,
was it like 20?
Yeah. It used to be a lot of rounds back in the day. So yeah, I don't think that that's my other fashion kind of hot take with the NFL. I don't really think they should. You shouldn't get to wear throwbacks from another team, like how the Titans have the Oilers. That's messed up.
Yeah, not even
you shouldn't be able to do that. No team should be able to do that. And then you definitely shouldn't bring back jerseys from an era. If black people couldn't play back then, just burn those jerseys. Like we don't even need to just keep honoring that part. I don't care if you guys won the championship.
I could only imagine if Mike was a player at a press conference. Mike, what do you think about the throwback jerseys from the 60s? Was I allowed to play? Okay, then there's your answer. Next.
Yeah, that's just like that's just not an era. Like, yeah, we don't need that. And yeah, I'm a big fan of something new. I would like to see them make an all black jersey.
Yeah, that would be hard.
Within the parameters of of the team. If they don't, that's fine. But like just something, push it forward. There's ways to like make new stuff. I kind of feel like that's what everything right now. I feel like movies are a bunch of remakes. Shows are just rebooting old shows.
I don't need to see Deep Blue Sea remade. The first one was good. Thank you.
It's just so it's like TV shows, music. It's just not even new music. It's just let's just sample this beat from '99 and rap over that. It's like, no, man.
Some of them are so good, Mike. I'm sorry.
So it's not even that it's bad. It's just like I'm a big fan of like, like so you can sample a beat, but as you can see, like some people are just taking an old beat and just rapping over that. Like I'm gonna just take Jay-Z's entire beat from this 1997 album and just rap over it now. It's like, well, no. You're not gonna sample it like Kanye or nothing. Like, I'm not a big fan of that right now. I feel like we should challenge ourselves to design new clothes, to make new music, to write new movie scripts. I know that they're on strike in Hollywood, but you guys get the point. So Mike likes the jerseys, Chris likes the jerseys, but yeah, it's Seahawks man to man. We would like to see like something new. Push it forward. Yeah, let's get creative and make some new jerseys.
I'm gonna DM my boy Saya, see if he can come with a dope design. Probably gonna cost a bag for it, but you know what?
He would, yeah, because he retro stuff, but he makes new stuff too. Anyway, we're
add his own spin to it every time.
I like new stuff. So give me something new.
Well, look, man. Like I said, it's been a long time since we did a pod, but we want to thank you guys for sitting down, doing whatever you're doing, driving, however you're listening to us. We appreciate all the love and support. It's go time. It's go time.
Yeah, training camp. Hearing this now. Training camp's on, baby. We're out there. I'm sweating. Doing a bunch of. It gets hot out there, but I wore black pants one day for the first day of camp. That was a dumbass decision. But
never again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll probably be one a week during preseason and training camp. This is really no reason to just overdo it more than that. Practice ain't that interesting. But yeah, we appreciate all the love and support on all the audio platforms, video platforms. If you catch us at training camp, come say what up. You know, it's always cool to like hear from you guys or meet you guys in person. People who we've been reading. Chris has been reading your name for a year or two, and it's nice to be like, hey, I'm at such and such. So we love that. Come on, come say what up. We appreciate that love and support. Like Chris said, it's go time, man. We in it. We back. I got a much needed break in July. Let's go. I'm ready to roll.
On that note, we'll catch you guys next week. Enjoy it. Talk to you later.